Hello, Lucy here. Just a reminder to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Whether you're new here or a regular listener, thank you for being part of this journey. We have got so many incredible guests lined up, so stay tuned and subscribe now. Welcome to the BBC. No. Oh my gosh, what a story.
When you put it all together, it's like,
Oh, dropped a card.
Maybe that should be the one.
Have you ever wondered what truly shapes your idea of home? Or how many times you can start again and still find your roots? If those questions get your curiosity going, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the wilderness of creativity. Now, my Substack newsletter this week ties perfectly into today's episode. If you haven't already subscribed, then head over to Substack and find me there. Honestly, the card that came up for Bex truly sums up our conversation beautifully. Bex Fisher is an interior designer and the founder of Homeshaped. Her passion for creating spaces that feel safe and balanced and meaningful really shine through our conversation. Now, this is only part one. Part two lands on Thursday, and Bex opens up about her relationship with her mum and the generational trauma that has shaped her life and work in this follow-up episode. So make sure you're subscribed, and if you enjoyed today's episode, then please leave us a review. Remember, you can find The Wilderness of Creativity on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. Right, let's get to the episode. So let's start with these. You got these cards. I do have quite a few cards, but these ones were given to me by a group of students that I was teaching.
Oh, that's nice.
And they're just lovely. So they're 100 inspiring quotes. Okay. So the card that's come up for you is, you always pass failure on the way to success. I'm thinking about that Waterstones application form.
I am too. So, screw you, Waterstones.
You always pass failure on the way to success. I mean, what do you think?
I tell you what I think. I think about that because probably in the last maybe 18 months, my business has been going up and down, as it naturally does anyway in interior design seasonally, but also what's going on in the world. And there have been occasions where I've thought, this isn't where I expected it to be 5-6 years into this business. And so I've messed it up. And I've had those thoughts, and, you know, and that's quite normal, but I always sort of get myself out of that, because you do the old, well, here are the reasons why you're not a failure, and have a bit of a word with myself. So,
yeah.
So that's quite timely, I would say.
We've had several conversations, and I know that you were worried about exploring that straight away. And it's so funny that card's come up in the first instance. Yeah. We do somehow find a way through it as we are taking this road less travelled. And I was wondering if we could just go back a little bit to where Homeshaped came from, because your website is gorgeous. Home is where the heart is, isn't it? And you're all about telling stories of families. Where did this journey start? Because I know you were in media.
Yes.
And you took that road less travelled. Tell me about it.
So I think, the name of the business comes from, because I sort of use home as a feeling, as like a heart-shaped thread that runs through everything that I do. And so I called it Homeshaped because your home shapes how you feel. That's where it came from. And I guess how I got to sort of recognising what I wanted to do. So I did work in media. I worked in advertising for 17 years. But prior to that, I've got a bit of a, how can I describe it? A bit of a sort of displaced background. So I left home at 16, I didn't leave Nottingham. But I left my home in Nottingham at 16. Yeah. And by the time I was 40, I'd lived in 22 different homes. So already, I got all of that kind of living in so many places. Then when I got pregnant with my daughter when I was 25, which was not really on the cards, and then split up with her dad quite soon afterwards. And I was working full time in advertising in London on my own with her. And it was then at that point that it really started hitting home about, not hitting home. I mean, there's so many puns around home. I'm going to throw them all out in this.
There's going to be a title of the episode coming up. I can feel it.
But that kind of got me to the sort of being connected to home and feeling like you've got a safe place to call home. When I got my daughter and it was just me and her and we weren't particularly secure and I was having to work full time when she was tiny to keep a roof over her head, that's when I started feeling really like, gosh, home is so super important. Plus living in all those homes, plus like a backstory of a couple of generations of lost mums, which means I don't have my mum. She's here, but not part of my life. And that as well, when you become a mum, becomes like, right, that feeling of home is everything. It's like so important to me. And then I started thinking, oh gosh, because I was always quite into interior design. I used to always, whatever house I was renting, I'd ask the landlord if I could paint the walls. I'd really personalise the space. And the kind of two things when I was on maternity leave with my third, it just got me thinking maybe I should be doing this instead, because it all kind of ties together. But it took me ages to think, why am I so passionate about this? Oh yeah, because this and this, like you really get what the feeling of home is.
Oh my gosh, what a story.
When you put it all together, it's like, oh.
When I was doing the research for this episode and I was writing a few things down, the first thing that came to mind was home is safety. Home is belonging. Home is a human right. And it is so much part of our identity. So now to hear that where this came from makes complete sense. And you can't be creative when you're in survival mode. That's the other thing as well, because it sounds like you were in survival mode for so long.
Yeah. And I used to really try, and I think maybe that's where I started honing my skills at making a space feel. There's a few sort of like my own little methodology, which I haven't actually given a name yet, but there's like comfort, balance and adaptability, meaningfulness. Those things are what I kind of design from. And I guess I was honing those skills from 16 when I was living at my grandma's, going sixth form college, and having to try and make my space feel like mine when she was like, don't put that there and don't, right through to being pregnant but not knowing it and living in a flat with a guy that I lovingly refer to as Cyril Pigby, not his real name. He was was probably, I mean, he was so not my type of guy, and he, like the kitchen, all the beans was stacked, an assumption you might make about someone as OCD. He was like that with all the tins in the cupboards, and I am not like that. So it's kind of, even there, trying to make that place that was very much his and I'd moved into it temporarily as a flatmate feel like home.
And it's this sort of transient living, and then the need to find that base, that place to call home. And so when you got to the stage where you thought, actually, I want to make this my career, what did that look like? Like, how did you get to the decision of, I'm going to leave this very stable, secure career?
Well, I'd got to the point where I wanted to leave anyway. So I knew when I had my third that I wouldn't be able to. So I worked full time with Sylvie, my eldest. And then when I had my second daughter, I worked part time and we moved to Guildford. So we moved out of London because I used to live in London. And that was really hard because I didn't see them for half the week. But then it got a bit dirty at work because where I used to work, because they changed my job when I was pregnant to a more marketing role, whereas I was always like media planning and strategy, to rebrand the entire company globally. And I didn't have any marketing experience. And they were like, well, we need you to do it.
Oh.
here's a little team, here's some budget. You've got this many months to do it. And then it got shortened and it was really stressful. And
Oh my gosh.
I called them out on some things. On maternity leave, I decided not to go back. They were happy with that. It worked out well. It worked out well for all of us. And then I just gave myself a bit of time I was lucky to be able to do that. We got married when George was like 11 months old or something. I did it all myself. Had made everything for the wedding and everything. And then I don't know. I can't. Someone was asking me this in a networking thing the other day. I cannot remember the moment where I had that. Oh, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to do. I don't remember. But I always used to like buy living, etc. from when it started in like 1999. My husband made me like get rid of them all when we moved house, like stacks of them. And I was always really interested in it, but I'd never kind of connected everything. And I think you've got to be, if you're running your own business, you've got to have such a passion for what you do and a reason for it. Otherwise, in those dips where you feel like it might not be going the way, that's where you need that to bring you back to the reason why. And I've got some bigger things that I want to be able to support. And I need my business to be a success to be able to support those things that I really care about and those charities and stuff.
I'm going to come back to charities because I was actually doing a little bit of research around homelessness and the amount of people that are displaced and the children that are affected by that as well. So we'll come to that because it is a crucial issue, and I think we do need to address it. When you were thinking about retraining, how did you manage that when you were also mum? Because so much of being mum is putting you and your needs at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah. Actually, that
How did
was
you
quite
manage that?
hard because that was
Yeah.
about, I can't remember even how long ago it was now, maybe 7 years ago. So I did a course in Nottingham, actually. It was half online and half. So you did some in studio and some online, and that's the option I chose I think it's a diploma in professional interior design, but it was quite intense. And another interior designer that I knew that was really successful had done it, so I thought, great idea. And the best bit about it was, I've got such happy memories of this. So the in studio bits were 1 whole weeks in Nottingham. So and at that time, I had a great aunt who was like my grandma, because I never had my grandma, which is kind of part of the backstory. She was like, and she's like my number one cheerleader. Sadly, she died last year. But so she was like 90, maybe. Yeah, because she was 98 when she died, or 97 when she died. I would stay with her, and then I'd go to the studio in the day, and I just, that was my life that week. I'd call home, but I was quite selfish. And she'd be there waiting with a glass of wine and
Oh,
my
how
dinner,
wonderful.
my M&S meal ready for me when I walked through the
Oh.
door. And she'd like get the taxis, but it was like home away from home. And because
That's
I was staying
interesting.
with her, it felt really, it was a really special time that time. And I didn't really realise that doing that course would also that'd be such precious time with her. But I was just totally selfish. It's like the kids, my husband, he's totally happy being with the flexing a bit to help me do what I want to do.
And that's part of it, isn't it? If you do have a supportive network around you, when you do want to step out of your comfort zone, try something else, launch a business, launch a platform, if you know you've got people who are cheerleading you, it's so much easier. If you don't have that, oh my gosh, it feels like you're treading water
Yeah.
all the time because you are your own cheerleader. How long was it after you'd finished the course did you start thinking, right, this is going to be my business, I'm going to launch Home Shaped?
Do I tell you the truth or do I tell you an edited version?
Listen, tell me both and then we'll decide.
So it probably took me, I think it took me probably about a year after I did. Like, I absolutely loved the course. I felt so inspired and I knew that I was good at it. I knew. And I also knew that I had a slightly different eye to the other I mean, obviously everyone does, but I just thought I'm coming at, I already had that home is a feeling thing in my head. So I was already coming at it from a different, but then I just had a year of like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I've got what it takes to run my own business. So yes, I have got no doubt that I am like 99.9% creative and a tiny little speck of logic and process. I'm just creative through and through. It's like, I spent quite a lot of time questioning that, overthinking, and then I put a thing out saying, I think I started my Instagram, but then I put a thing out saying, does anybody anybody prepared to let me do it for nothing? And I got 3 really good starting clients, or maybe 4 even. And I did those for nothing. And that taught me like, I think it was probably just about a year and a couple of months before I got my first paid client. But I was totally okay with that. I wasn't expecting to just walk in and, I wanted to be able to test the water a little bit.
Mm. With your background in strategy.
So what I used to do was kind of work out where the connection points were with a consumer and the brand across their day. That's basically what media planning is. And where you can create an emotional connection with a brand, by touch points across the day. That's effectively what it is. But it's like finding when you write a strategy in advertising, it's like finding a golden thread that will weave through. And it's the same with people's homes, but it's a heart-shaped thread.
A heart-shaped thread. I love that. We're in the middle of we've got to do a rupper.
So have I.
Oh, it really stresses me out. I don't know why. I don't know why we thought we could do this, because neither of us are very good at DIY. But the house has got such potential that when we walked in, we were like, "This is it." We're just in the process of doing our bedroom. So we've had the electrics done, we've had it stripped back, it's now replastered, but it's been like that for a couple of weeks. And every time I walk in there, it makes me a little bit anxious and a little bit resentful, because I like beautiful things and I see beauty in everything. And so when I come home, I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel like I'm in a beautiful space, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in like a space that's cluttered. We've had to bring things in from the garage because we're having a heat pump put in. We've got red carpets, pink walls, green walls. Like it's a house of its time, like the decoration. You said it on your website, it says the same thing. Like was it this house that you were doing up?
It's still a do-upper 10 years in, because we don't want to half-arse it. We want to do it properly.
That's it.
And so we've just been doing it very bit by bit. And then every time we gather the cash to do what we want to do, the price goes up, and we have to maybe compromise, and then it goes up again. And then we're like, well, if we compromise too much, it's not what we want.
What was the first room that you did in the house?
Living room. Because we've got not a very nice kitchen, and it continues to be, I call it the 1980s Greek taverna, because it's got really hideous tiles. It's got a lino floor. It's just giving 80s Greek taverna. It's just hideous, and it's dark, but the living room's gorgeous. It had an open fire. It's got big French doors onto our gorgeous garden, which is what we bought the house for. And we make quite a big deal of like the ritual of Saturday night TV, and we always have done as a family. And so that space was just naturally the most coziest, comforting space to get right.
Yeah.
So that's where we started. And it was a big job. Like we had to redo the floors, we had to replaster. But it is super cozy, and people as soon as they walk in, they're just like, oh, this room.
Yeah. And that's it. It's the feeling that you get when you walk into a room. And it in some ways it's like it doesn't really matter what you put on the walls in terms of colour or anything like that. It's the feeling that you get when you feel safe, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's lots of reasons. Like colour does have an impact, but there's quite a few different layers to creating that feeling of comfort and safety. Like it's a sensory experience, so it is visually. So you said something earlier about like you see beauty in everything. So do I. And it's funny because this is what I really resonated with your last podcast. Is she said something about you'll find bees don't have noses, but nose to nose with a bee. Well, I quite often get laughed at in the Arboretum across the road from my house because I'll be there with my phone, not with my app, with my phone, like photographing a tiny raindrop dropping off a leaf, or I'll be hugged. There's some eucalyptus trees in there. It's like split into different parts of the world, and that's the Australia bit. And I've got a huge connection to Australia because my mum's from Australia. And so sometimes I'll go and hug that tree, and I've been found hugging it, bothered, by, an old man walking his dog wondering.
What are you doing that for?
Because that sort of, why am I even saying this now? What has that got to do with, beauty. So if you find beauty in things, and there is a massive physiological response to finding beauty in things. It's called neuroaesthetics, is the science behind it. And that is becoming slowly evolving into informing interior design. When I mention it, most interior designers, when I mention the science and psychology stuff, haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But that is the neuroaesthetics, is how our eyes note beauty, and then how our physiological response to it. So it calms our nervous system, it can improve our focus, and obviously colours and patterns can do that. That was quite a long-winded way of trying to explain it.
Neuroaesthetics.
Yeah.
So anyone who's listening, I'm going to put some maybe some research or some links. Maybe you could send me a little link to some research and we can pop that in the show notes for anyone who's interested.
It's quite hard to find, actually, because it just like the other science that informs quite a lot of what I do, it's emerging science. So there's not that much research, and there's certainly not very much about home. I'd love to do a big research project, actually.
If we're thinking about like the sensory experience, so what we see, and then I guess it's what you can smell and
feel. So feel obviously is quite a big thing. So textures, and this is something that gets not forgotten about or overlooked loads, is textures, materials, shapes, those sorts of things. So there are materials and shapes and textures that are more like nature based. So the natural materials, the properties of those will always make you feel better than something that is hard. I think I do it this morning, wrote a post about it, like soft edges, a curved table rather than a rectangular table. Those sorts of things. So colour and texture is super important. That doesn't mean go and buy a load of cushions, because I'm not down with that.
No.
Despite what, like, one client said to me, "You're not just going to get me to buy loads of expensive cushions, are you?" No, I am not. That is such a cliched thing. But it's more about, but a wool blanket, however, I would advocate, because that's like instant cozy, and it makes you feel comforted because it's wrapped around you. It's like a hug. It's that kind of stuff. So it's like things you can see, textures and stuff. Then also the way the room is planned and the layout can have a huge difference. And there's a lot of stuff to do with, like, back to our kind of cave days, things like where you position your furniture. It's really important, like with your bed, but it might be your sofa, so that you've got a view of the horizon, so that you can. Back in those days, it was so that you could see danger coming. And that's why you'll always feel more comforted sitting in a chair that looks out into your garden or the view rather than with your back to it, without you even realising it. So move your furniture so that you're getting the view, and it will naturally make you feel better.
Yeah, because you talk a little bit about doing that when you were a child as well, like rearranging furniture.
But you don't realise it's such a subconscious thing. Like our kitchen, the taverna, has a like a big wall where our little kitchen table is, and I don't eat my breakfast in there because I don't want to. It doesn't make me feel comforted sitting facing walls. So I will often eat my breakfast in my bedroom, which I know it sounds like the most slovenly, slothy, what do the kids call it, bed rotty thing. But I've got a gorgeous view of the hill from my bedroom window. And I feel so uncomfortable sat in there that I'd rather just scram my granola up there instead.
And do you have a chair that's by your window? I'm imagining you sitting in a lovely chair.
I don't,
Or
but
are you on
our
your bed?
furniture is all kind of orientated as much as possible to the views. And because we love we're like really green, we love the gardens. So our home's really connected to nature. And my husband and I have both got quite similar, like we love gardening. He has got me into really loving birds. So we've got but lots of birds and image stuff around our house. So that's kind of the next level, actually, once after the space planning and optimizing that so that it makes you feel good and comforted. And like eliminating clutter as much as possible, because the reason that it's a similar watching the horizon thing, that clutter, if there was stuff in the way back in the day, God, I'm really like
It's all
handy.
right. Handsy.
I am. And they're really long. Then clutter in the way of the horizon would have made you feel unsafe as well. So it's all things like that. Yeah, and then the next level is adding a bit of meaning and togetherness to that space. So finding ways that you can. There's some research, and it's about like almost like accidental moments of togetherness with the people that you're with, whether it be in the office space. I think it's in the office space at home. But those like accidental moments of togetherness is where we feel really connected. So it's like non-intentional. So at home, that could be, I think probably that's why islands are really popular. It's not only are they good for storage and stuff, but having the seats at the island allow for your kids to jump up and chat to you on their way to like annihilating the snack drawer.
Yeah. See, we'd like to do that with ours. We've got a galley kitchen. And then it goes into the dining room, but the dining room is free flow that goes then into a lounge. So we'd like to knock through into the kitchen and have an island. One of our friends have done it as well. And obviously everybody congregates in the kitchen when we're socializing. The kids can be in there, and we can have like a little sofa with some board games and things like that. I think accidental moments of togetherness is the title of the episode. That is absolutely beautiful. I love that. And you say workspace as well. So obviously some people listening to this will work from home. So how do we manage to kind of keep those spaces separate so that we can relax in the sort of the home space, but then have a workspace as well that feels purposeful and intentional?
That is often the thing that, we have to do because we have to have our spaces that are adaptable for multi-purposes. There are lots of ways of doing that to kind of delineate between spaces. So, for example, in here, although the sofa's round the other way, but I've got my desk over here in the corner of this room, but that sofa is usually facing the opposite way, and it kind of cuts the room in half. And on the other wall is a TV. So it's like a room of two halves. And because the sofa's facing that way, so if I wanted to, because I have watched an episode of Maths in the middle of the day, I can just sit over there, but I'm facing away from my workspace, and it kind of closes you off from that. So it's kind of delineating the space a bit, or, there are like offices with cupboards and things like that where you can close it off.
And when you start working with a client, obviously you've got different ways of working with people. You obviously have your full interior design service. You've got mood boards and kind of a consultation package as well, don't you? So what does a full service look like with an interior designer? Because for me, somebody who is doing a house up, I need to know. Asking for a friend.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing that people come to me for a full design, because they do not have the time, energy, confidence. They're ready to do it. They might have a total idea of what they want, but they're sort of stuck in it, and they kind of want to take action. I described it in a networking event the other day as a busy woman that will just go, fuck it, let's do it, because I know it's going to make my life better. Because there's this kind of thing of like, if you don't do it, it's going to carry on frustrating you for the next 6 months or year or however long you leave it. So it's kind of better to just get it done and then be brave, take that action in getting someone in, because it's a big trust thing as well. And a full design thing is a massive trust thing between me and my clients, because they have got to let me into their home like properly. And quite often I'll immediately uncover, it's quite a deep conversation. I get to know my clients really well. So the full design package, I always send out a questionnaire, like a really fun questionnaire to dig out your personality and your likes and dislikes and colours you can't stand. Obviously my main question is always, how do you want your home to feel? How is it being lived in? How do you want it to support you to become the best version of you, and how you are living now and where you want to go with your life, you and your family? That's the bigger picture stuff with the full design. Then I normally go to the house, we talk through that questionnaire. I then do a mood board, because a mood board, I do that in isolation sometimes, but a mood board kind of sets the tone. That is like the strategy. So you see everything sort of together, and I sometimes do it room by room and then an overall one. And then that's really exciting. Everyone always gets really excited when they see that, because it's sort of bringing a vision to life. And also then that always comes with notes, regardless of if it goes to the full design. So you can have it on your phone, and it's like a visual checklist every single time you Google anything or you're in a shop. You can just look, say, does that look like that would go on that mood board? No, so I'm not even going to bother buying that. It's kind of like a real like clarifying tool. Then after the mood board, then I'll do some space planning. So I work out the most optimum flow. I know all the what's it called? Anthropomorphic data of distances between things and heights and all that sort of stuff. So there's quite a bit of that behind it that you would never really think about. And actually it's quite boring. It's like how far the TV needs to be away from your head and what angle. And
I don't think that's boring. I think that's really interesting.
I quite like all that. And then I do to scale drawings of room layouts, and I hand draw it because I like drawing. I'll design bespoke furniture if I feel like that's needed. That a carpenter can then just use my drawings to create something. So I've done that in loads of different. I've done like water wall, a children's playroom with a like little nook in the middle and pull out drawers, so they've all got their own drawer. And I've done loads of stuff. And then I source things, which is quite often the theme that is just like, because I create a spreadsheet with all the deets on, and then all you got to do is click and buy it. And I'll make a limited selection, because the whole point of me doing this is so that you're not overwhelmed anymore. And it is very rare that someone comes back and say, in fact, I don't know that that's ever happened, comes back and says, I don't like those choices. And in fact, one client that I've had said to me on Instagram, on one of my posts, so she said it publicly, which I loved from her. I actually went off piste, bought something that wasn't on your thing, and I had to send it back and get your one because I went against you. And I'm so sorry.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like impulse buying. You think you know what a space needs, and so you go out and you buy lots of different things, and then you get it into the space and it doesn't work at all. And so having that clarity and having somebody like you to take that overwhelm away and say, look, these are your 3 options. Choose one.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am down for that.
And they're all quite, they're all quite similar, because by that point, I'll have honed the experience and the feeling of that space or house or whatever I'm doing, whatever level I'm doing it, so much that it's really clear the choices that I've made. And I explain everything. Those I either explain it in a presentation or I go and talk it through. Sometimes I'll do physical mood boards, like I did at the most beautiful house. I called it the tree house, and we had a mood board for each room, a physical mood board, because she wanted lots of different fabrics and stuff. And then it's like you can't go wrong from there, because I've done it all for you. And what I think I'm really good at as well, I'm quite intuitive, and so like maybe my strategy background, so I can instantly go into a space, speak to the person that lives there, and work out immediately from like just feeling it, what they need and how I need to do it. I can't explain how, but that's kind of, so then when I've done the whole process, I just know that it's all done for them and they can just get on with loving that space and living in it.